First of all, I have my Sastang Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers thousands and thousands of times at the lotus feet of my holy master, Asmadeya Paramarajatama Guru Pada Padma, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Ashto Tarasata Sishimad, Rupanugacharya Varya, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami. Secondly, I offer my pranam thousands and thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And I offer my pranam to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So by the cautious mercy of Guru and Gauranga, we have resided in Vrindavan Dham for one more day.
Yeah.
How fortunate we are to be in this holy place. Yeah. It may not be as comfortable as your home in any other country. Yeah. And Krishna knows that fact also. And Sri Krishna sees all the difficulties and inconvenience that you go through to stay in his dham. And he becomes very grateful. He is not ungrateful. His heart is very soft and he's thinking, oh, how can I reward these people? So today, I want to begin a new subject. Yesterday we were hearing about Sambandha Gyan. And this is the first step of spiritual life. To become established in Sambandha Gyan. To understand, know, to realize the relation between Jiva, the soul, Brahma, Supreme Lord, and Jagat, this universe. This is Sadharan Sambandha Gyan, ordinary general Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of context of every soul, which is common to everyone. After that, then one can become situated in Vishesh Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of one's own particular relation with Sri Krishna. There is no question of the Vishesh Sambandha Gyan arising until one is situated in the realization of the Sadharan Sambandha Gyan. Why? Because when Shuddha Bhakti, pure Bhakti is appearing, one aspect of Bhakti Shakti is Sambit Shakti. Bhakti is the essence of Sambit and Ladini Shakti. So when Bhakti is appearing, then that means the essence of Sambit Shakti is appearing, the knowledge potency. So automatically when Bhakti is appearing, then naturally all the Tattva Gyan awakens first. And then the Vishesh Sambandha Gyan. There is no such thing as a devotee who has love for Krishna but who is ignorant of Tattva Siddhanta. Since this realization, all the types of Gyan, they are the byproduct of Bhakti. Vasud we mentioned yesterday, as spoken by Sutta Goswami. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyatya Suvairagyam Gyanam Chayata Hoitukam. When Bhakti appears, naturally, cautiously, Gyan, knowledge and Vairagya, detachment from the world, manifest automatically. Sometimes it may seem that a very advanced devotee is bewildered like an ordinary person. But this is due to their avesh, their very high level of avesh. They are transcendently situated. But the devotees who are going through the Kram, developing the stages of bhakti one by one, it is impossible to come to the higher stage without going through the realization of Tattva Jnana. So, Srila Sanatana Goswami, who discovered Madan Mohan, very beautiful painting on Gurdev's book, how it was like the old forest. Srila Sanatana Goswami discovered Madan Mohan, and beautiful temple was constructed for him there in the Dwadasaditya Tila near Prashkanda Tirtha. So there Srila Sanatana Goswami, he manifested this Brihad Bhagavatamrita because it was the service entrusted to him, the responsibility entrusted to him by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to impart Sambandha Jnana. And Srila Sanatana Goswami has achieved this through most wonderful, astonishing narration. Two narrations actually found in Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So, the first canto of Brihad Bhagavatamrita is the history of Narad, traveling everywhere throughout the universe, trying to find the greatest recipient of Shri Krishna's mercy. And those who are hearing the broadcast we did by web broadcast Krishna Katha TV, then you have heard all the first canto in about 35 or 40 parts. We discussed the first canto. And we began the second canto, but it was not finished. We came to the part where Gop Kumar has come to Satyalok. So Gop Kumar is explaining his own life history to the Mato Brahmin, Jana Sharma. And not one life, but many lives. How Gop Kumar was remembering Gopal Mantra, and by the power of his Gopal Mantra, he was going through each planet, from Earth to the Swargalok, from Swargalok to the Mahalok to Janalok, Janalok to Tapalok, and finally, now in the here, he has come to Satyalok. So the wonderful thing is that in each level where he arrived, he attained astonishing position there. So when he came to Indralok, there was some disturbance, and Indra became afraid, disturbed of demons, he ran away, and then Gop Kumar became Indra. So then he became Indra for thousands of years. And at this point, he came to Satyalok, and he ended up, by some arrangement of the Lord, that he became Lord Brahma now in Brahmalok. So Gop Kumar, he said, even though I heard that my lifespan was 2 paradhas, that means 311 trillion 40 billion years, still I would feel some fear of the force of time. Huh? Even if you live for 311 trillion years and 40 billion, but one day you have to die, then how can you feel comfortable? Said, to allay this fear, I used to chant my mantra. However, when I chanted the mantra, this would stir up remembrance of Vrindavan, and thus I would feel the pain of separation. As soon as I chanted, I used to become agitated with intense longing for Vrindavan and all of the beautiful places in the land of Braja. But there, in Satyalok, Supreme Lord was there in the form of Jagadish. And each planet he went to, there was one form of the Lord residing there. So Jagadish, he would caress me like a son and cause me boundless delight and eradicate the distress of my heart. I always stayed close to Sri Jagadish and would serve him in the mood of his being my father. Because Brahma and Jagadish, they're like father and son. So when it sometimes happened that I committed offenses in His service, the Lord mercifully forgave my offenses. Jagadish forgave me, but still I considered myself an offender and I was troubled. You see, there's so much the sambhrambhav, fear. So knowing that I was troubled, Lakshmi Devi would console me and reassure me with loving words just like a mother. This would fill my heart with joy. And thus I stayed there in Brahmalok, Satyalok, for a very, very long time. So once I was there and I heard some of the residents of Satyalok, they glorified someone who had attained liberation. And hearing their sincere praise, I was astounded. And out of curiosity I said, "What's liberation?" See, he's a cowherd boy. And but by the power of his mantra, he's become Lord Brahma. So the Brahmarshis, the Brahma Rishi residents of Satyalok, were glorifying one jiva from earth who had attained mukti. And I had never heard such glorification before, and I was amazed. Because at each level he was going through, he was thinking, this is it. I came to this is the topmost destination. And then they were glorifying someone who had gone even beyond that. So I was surprised. So I asked the Brahmarshis, why are you praising this person so much? And do you also want to attain mukti? Gopkumar is a very, how can we say, simple, he's a very simple cowherd boy. Just wondering, he has no Shastra gap or anything, but he's remembering mantra and going up and up. So then, the Brahmarshis described to me the super excellence and the rarity of mukti, liberation. When I heard them, I desired it myself. And I asked the omniscient personified Vedas and others who were present there how to attain it. So in Brahmalok, the Shastras that we have on this earth, they're actually personalities and they reside there. Just like here, you see Tulsi. Oh, where is Tulsi? Hey, what happened to Tulsi? Okay. So, will this burn the cloth? It will not become hot and burn the cloth.
We can move it, but it will not.
Just keep it going.
It's too short, huh?
That's okay. I thought it may melt. So, Tulsi, to our eyes, she looks like a plant. But she's a goddess. So the Shastra, to our eyes, looks like a book. But the mantras of the Vedas, the Upanishads, they have personal forms. In Brahmalok. So, Gopkumar, he's there in Brahmalok, the Vedas are there in person. Not like, if you want to look for the answer to a question, you find a book and then you look in the index, you're trying to find the answer. The Vedas are there personally, he can talk to them and find out what their opinion is without reading. So I thought, the Vedas are omniscient and others living here in Brahmalok, so I'll ask them how to achieve this marvelous state that is being glorified called mukti. So then, there were many Upanishads there, and the Upanishads were present they were female. The Upanishads were goddesses. And they were accompanied by the Shruti, the four Vedas, and the Smriti. So, when I posed this question, The Upanishads, the Shruti and the Smriti all spoke simultaneously to me. They said, all together, liberation is attained only by knowledge. There is no other way of achieving this goal. Only by Gyan. So the Vedas were male gods, and the Upanishads were female goddesses. And then the Smritis, that means the Puranas and the Tantra Shastra, Purana and Agam, they all spoke in one voice together. Moksha is the most exalted goal and also most difficult to achieve. It's attained exclusively by Advaya Gyan, or transcendental knowledge which is beyond duality, and by no other means. One of the Shrutis said, Tameva viditvati mrityum eti nanya panta vidyate yanaya. Only through knowledge of Brahman can death be transcended. There is no other way to attain liberation. That was the Svetashruta Upanishad said that. The goddess of Svetashruta Upanishad. So, but one should understand what? You cannot attain mukti by Gyan. So the word Advaya Gyan, or non-dual knowledge, or knowledge of the non-dual absolute, means knowledge which arises from bhakti. And therefore, what is mentioned in the Upanishads as Gyan is actually a form of bhakti, not Gyan. Understand? Especially Nirvishesh Gyan, knowledge only of the impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth, will not give you mukti. So, then, some of the Puranas and the Agamas, the Tantra Shastras, they said in a very grave voice, although it is true that one can attain liberation through Gyan, through knowledge, that knowledge is exceedingly difficult to obtain. However, that same knowledge may be attained simply by practicing bhakti, devotional service to the Supreme Lord. By no other means is it so easily achieved. So then, Gopakumar is saying that the Puranas, the Agamas and the Pancharatra is the transcendental knowledge imparted by Lord Badrinarayan to Narad Muni in Bhadrakashram during 5 nights. Pancharatra means 5 nights, so that's called the Pancharatra. So they are experts in establishing the superiority of bhakti. So they spoke very seriously and said, it's true that one can attain liberation by knowledge or Gyan, but that knowledge is practically impossible to attain. But by bhakti, it can be attained easily. No other means as bhakti can easily yield that knowledge. So here we have the Upanishads, the Shrutis, the Smritis, they all said liberation comes only by knowledge. So you can misunderstand that. So it was the Puranas and the Tantra Shastras said, we just want to qualify what was just said. That is that only by Gyan alone, that's practically impossible to attain. But you can get that knowledge by doing bhakti. So then, the Puranas and the Agamas continue to say, alternatively, one may easily attain liberation by properly executing devotional service without following Gyan. In other words, if you follow Gyan and you add bhakti to it, then you can get mukti. But you can get that Gyan just by doing bhakti without doing any Gyan. So then, when the Puranas and the Tantra Shastra said this, then some of the Vedas and others of the Smritis, some of them, they agreed, yes, it's correct. So of course, the Bhagavad Gita is also one Smriti. So the Bhagavad Gita agreed, saying, Bhakta Tananya Sakyama Ahameva Vidorjuna. Only by performing unalloyed service unto me can one understand the truth and see me before his very eyes. Gyatam drastum cha tattvena profestum cha parantapa. And one can enter into me and associate with me and reside in my company. So Gopkumar is saying that some of the Shrutis and Smritis who were devoted to God, they were nodding their heads and gesturing in agreement that liberation can only be attained by loving devotion to the Lord. So, it's mentioned here, it's very interesting. So when some of the Shrutis and Smritis, they were saying, they were nodding and making gestures in agreement, it has a deep meaning. And that is, that some of those Shrutis and Smritis do not directly and explicitly establish that only Bhakti is the cause of liberation. But that conclusion can be ascertained from the purports to their statements. So this is the meaning, that they did not say anything, but they were making gestures. You understand? If you're talking with a person, they may not say something, but they can make a gesture. That they're agreeing. And so this is in the higher realms where all things have meaning. It means that we are not saying directly, but you can understand from our purports. So it said in Shastra, there's one saying, a subject matter is more highly respected when its principles are ascertained in the commentaries. So this is a very interesting point about the style of writing the Shastras. The Shastra is written in such a way that it does not often it does not directly express what he wants to say. Why? Because in learned circles, a subject matter is considered to be more highly respected when it's understood as the implications of the statement or from the purports to the statement than by being directly stated. Understand? Where is the name of Radharani in Srimad Bhagavatam? Where's the glories of Radharani and Lalita Vishaka and so on in Srimad Bhagavatam? They're not said directly, but we can infer from the statements who is Radharani and her glories and Lalita and Vishaka and so on. And so in learned circles, this is the method of communication of knowledge. So then, there were some Shrutis and some Smritis who did not clearly support Bhakti as the direct cause of liberation. So then, the great Upanishads and the Agamas and Puranas who follow the conclusions of Bhakti clearly, they spoke together because they were a little bit angry with the Shrutis and the Smritis who don't clearly support Bhakti as the cause of liberation. And so those Agamas and Puranas and Upanishads who directly express the importance of Bhakti, they all spoke together and told the other Agamas and Puranas, Bhakti only is the cause of liberation. So you can see a bit of a debate is coming about between the different scriptures on Satyalok. So here, Gopkumar is saying, because we know from Vedanta Sutra. There it is said, Tattu samanvayat, shastriyonitvat. The truth can only be known from the scripture. And tattu samanvayat, there is no difference of opinion between the Shastras. So Gokuma is saying that some of the Shrutis and Smritis, they agreed internally, but they did not externally make it clear that they were supporting Bhakti as the direct cause of liberation. So, some of the Upanishads, who were devoted to singing the glories of Supreme Lord and their followers, such as the Puranas and Agamas, they were the Anugatya. They became angry with the Shastras, who, though they believed that Bhakti is the only way, they didn't openly say it very strongly. So here we see, like a call is coming, not because the Shastras are quarreling with each other, but they have internal agreement. But externally, it seems that they're saying something different. It's a very beautiful and poetic way in which Srila Sanatana Goswami is explaining how to properly interpret the Shastras. So then, the Vishnu Purana, he said, what to speak of Dharma, Artha, Karma and Moksha? One who has unshakable faith in Bhagavan, who is the origin of the entire universe, that person holds liberation in the palm of his hand. So then, some of the confidential Upanishads who are dedicated to Bhakti, and also the confidential Maha-agamas, the Vaishnava Tantras, such as Sattva Siddhanta and other Vaishnava Tantras, and also Srimad Bhagavatam, they smiled gravely and remained silent. So, among those Shastras there were some Shastras who are extremely confidential, and they're completely devoted to loving service of Bhagavan. That means Sattvata Siddhanta, the Srimad Bhagavatam, they were smiling, and but not saying anything. Why? They were thinking, oh, just see the power of Maya, the illusory energy. Bhagavan's Maya is astonishing. It is dismaying that even omniscient personalities cannot comprehend the essential principles of truth that are unmistakably established in the scriptures. Why was Bhagavatam smiling and not saying anything? Because Bhagavatam's thinking, is this the glory of Bhakti? That Bhakti alone gives mukti, liberation? This is not glorious. This is not the glory of Bhakti at all. So on the one hand, the scriptures were in agreement that only Bhakti gives mukti, but some were shy about saying it and some were more bold about saying it. And the Bhagavatam was just watching and thinking, this has nothing to do really with the glory of Bhakti. Bhakti is something much, 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 much more than this. So, Srimad Bhagavatam was thinking, these omniscient personalities are actually disregarding Bhakti by saying that the glory of Bhakti is that it bestows liberation. Whatever the cause of their statements may be, there's no point in speaking with these scriptures. Srimad Bhagavatam decided, I'm just not going to talk to them. He stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that great personalities sometimes speak and sometimes remain silent. They decide. So in this situation, Srimad Bhagavatam decided, I don't want to even talk to them about this. So, thus considering that this discussion was useless, it is useless to engage in discussion with a person of a disparate opinion, and considering it improper to reveal supremely confidential truths about bhakti in such an assembly, the confidential and esoteric scriptures such as Bhagavatam and the Vaishnava Tantra, they just remain quiet. So then, one group of scriptures was arguing, one can attain liberation merely by the potency of chanting the mantras composed of the names of Bhagavan. Another scripture said, no, that's not the way. There are also other ways to achieve it. In this way, a heated dispute ensued between the Agamas and others, the Vedas and the Puranas. So then, unable to endure this quarrel, the esoteric Mahapuranas, the Srimad Bhagavatam, along with Agamas and Upanishads, they blocked their ears with their fingers. And they got up and they left and went outside. So Gopkumar says, so here's his little cowherd boy. Somehow or other he ended up being Lord Brahma in Satyalok. And now he's watching a debate going on between all these different scriptures. And it's become so heated now that the Bhagavatam and other confidential scriptures just got up and walked out. So, now, Gopkumar is telling this, his own experience, to Janasharma. So then Janasharma might ask, what was the topic of their argument? So then Gopkumar replied, he said, they argued about whether or not one can attain liberation just by uttering the name of God. The confidential Mahapuranas, the Agamas and Upanishads, who had previously smiled gravely and maintained silence, but now they could not tolerate the debate or the doubts that it engendered regarding the potency of the name of God, so they just left. They did so. Why? Because it is improper even to hear doubts about the exalted nature of bhakti. In other words, in these confidential scriptures, there is not even the slightest smell of distrust in regard to the power of pure bhakti. So earlier it was said that the Upanishads were the primary personalities there, and the Puranas and Srimad Bhagavatam, they were following them. But when this discussion came in regard to the power of the name of God, then the Bhagavatam, the Mahapuranas and the Vaishnava Tantra were not following the Upanishads. They walked out first, and the Upanishads followed the Bhagavatam. So then, the Maha Upanishads and the Mahapuranas, they decided to mediate in the debate. And after mediating, then they declared that the Agamas were victorious. Gopkumar said, and when the Maha Upanishads decided that the Agamas were victorious, then Gopkumar said, I also became very joyful. So Gopkumar is saying, the reason why those scriptures got up and walked away was because they wanted to maintain impartiality. But then, by listening to the thoughts and arguments of both parties, they could come to a proper understanding. And they were selected as the arbiters, the mediators, and they awarded victory to the Agamas. Gopkumar said, because I was very partial to the chanting of Krishna's names, then I was very happy with this decision. Vishnu Purana said, the planets such as the sun and the moon are repeatedly created and destroyed. However, those persons who utter the 12-syllable mantra of Lord Vishnu never, even to this day, have ever returned to this material world. So, then Gopkumar said, I understood why the Srimad Bhagavatam and other tantras were smiling gravely and had stepped outside. So, I also went outside and I praised them and I said, please come back. So then Gopkumar brought the Srimad Bhagavatam and other tantras back into the assembly house. So then, Gopkumar said, I respectfully inquired about the essential truth of liberation, moksha tattva. Then, the confidential Upanishads and the Vaishnava Tantras joined in with Srimad Bhagavatam and they gave me the reply to this question. What is the essential truth of liberation, moksha tattva? So now, this next verse begins, Shri Bhakti Shastrani Uchuhu. The Bhakti Shastras replied together in unison. O you who have newly achieved the post of Lord Brahma, this truth is more secret than the most precious of jewels. However, impelled by your virtues and by your worship of Bhagavan, we will personally reveal this truth to you. Although we scriptures are devoted to the loving service of Bhagavan, in some places we have examined the subject of moksha, liberation. Why? We have examined the subject of liberation only to expose how insignificant it is, and by all means to condemn liberation and also condemn the process of attaining it. So one may say, yes, liberation is discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam and in other high-level shastras, but not to glorify liberation, to show how useless it is, and also the process for attaining it. So the Bhagavatam is saying, we've described moksha only to criticize it. If we don't explain what it is, how can we criticize it? So, Srimad Bhagavatam and other Bhakti Shastras said, in the course of describing the glories of bhakti, we have also sometimes praised liberation, but this is not to indicate that liberation is the ultimate attainment, because there is not even the slightest ganda, that means the slightest scent of happiness in that liberation. Just as a person considers himself to be happy when relieved from a painful disease or when sleeping soundly, in the same way, the supposed happiness of liberation is simply the absence of suffering. Moreover, the designation of moksha is symbolic of ajnana. That means Gyan means to be conscious or aware of something. And so moksha means to have no consciousness, to be conscious of nothing. That is, as the bondage of illusion or ignorance is unreal, like that of a dream, so also that which liberates one from such bondage is also devoid of reality. Therefore, only ignorant persons have an interest in liberation. So, two important points here. The first point is that the so-called happiness of liberation is just like if you are sick, you have a disease and you are suffering. So you take medicine, the disease goes away. Now you think, I'm very happy. This is not a positive happiness, it's only relief. This is the first point. And the second point is that just as day and night have no existence for one who lives on the sun planet, so in the same way, for the living being who has become transcendental by being situated in his constitutional form, the terms of liberation and bondage, they have no meaning. So this is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-26. Lord Brahma said, the concept of bondage and liberation are both based on ignorance. They have no place in the perfectly pure transcendental awareness, just as day and night have no meaning on the sun. Just like in a dream, if you are suffering in a dream, and then that suffering ends. So the end of the suffering was part of the dream. And so the process of becoming free from the suffering in the dream is also itself a type of dream. So then Bhagavatam continued. What to speak of the glories of the name of Bhagavan, if one merely utters even once? No, if one simply hears, not the pure name, just hears the Abbas, Nam Abbas, then without any effort, he attains liberation. So, there's a history in the Varaha Purana that in the beginning of the story of one Brahmin whose name was Satyatapa, it is stated that once there was a Brahmin and he was standing in some water and he was chanting the names of Bhagavan. So at that time, a tiger approached him to eat him. And just as the tiger was about to jump and eat the Brahmin, one hunter who was nearby shot an arrow that stopped the tiger in his tracks, and the tiger fell. And as the wounded tiger was dying, he could hear the Brahmin chanting, Om Namo Narayana, like that. And thus that tiger was liberated. Tiger has no Shastragya. He does not know any Siddhanta. He did not do any tapasya. He doesn't even know what he's hearing. Only by chance he heard the name of Narayan from the lips of a Brahmin while he was dying, and at once he attained mukti. So, the Srimad Bhagavatam and other confidential Shastras said, Bhakti Shastras, they said, factually, only those who do not have discriminating intelligence think that liberation is attractive. If one considers this subject from any point of view, the attractiveness of liberation cannot be substantiated. And this is the determination of the Vedas, the Itihas, the histories, the Puranas, and all other scriptures. And this is what we are explaining to you. So now, the Bhakti Shastras, having cut the conception that mukti, liberation, is such a wonderful thing compared to bhakti. Now the Bhakti Shastras will explain the factual glories of bhakti itself. But this we will hear tomorrow. Shri Gop Kumar ki jai, Shri Ved Bhagavatamrita ki jai, Shri Sanatana Goswami Pad ki jai, Gaur Premanand.